Want to love and want to lose.
So what I'm going to be doing, you can see it separates it out into vocals, drums, and then any remaining music. So what I'll do is I'll play it, let's listen for the vocal, then I'll kick it into a cappella mode, which is going to drop out everything else except for the voice.
Sweet divine, the heavy truth. What do we want? Don't make me choose. I wanna feel the way that we took us tonight.
So you can hear some artifacts in there, and we'll talk a little bit more about my process around getting it into a DAW and making it sound whole again.
I've been running through the jungle. I've been running with the wolves to get to you, to get to you. I'll be
So there's the backing with no vocals. I feel like there's a loose connection here. So sometimes some of the highs roll off, and what we do is we bring it into a DAW and we can add an exciter or some other techniques, which I can talk about next. Another track which I went ahead and did was Havana by Camila Cabello. And this one I think is another good example of how it works. Let's go ahead to the default.
Havana, na-na. Half of my heart is in Havana, na-na.
You can hear it pulls that up.
He took me back to East Atlanta, na-na-na. All of my heart is in Havana. There's something about his manners. Havana, na-na.
Cool, so that's a quick introduction to how the software works. And there's different algorithms that you can go through to get the best extraction for that piece of source material. So that's a quick listen. So now I thought what would be cool is just to jump into a performance. This is the Wolves track, and just to kind of see how I built up stuff around it and how you can take something for inspiration that wasn't available for me to remix. I really wanted to remix, dragged it into live and then built it up from there. So, cool, all right. If you guys want to dance, you can clear these chairs out. How's that level? cool. You guys can see what I'm doing on the screen at the same time. There you go. There was an example of it. So basically, now, let's see. The idea is type separation, rebalancing, exporting. Yeah, I think it would be cool to kind of show a little bit about my thought process behind bringing that in, because there was maybe a lot going on. You know, the idea is once you bring in the wave or MP3 or whatever into XTRAX, you can choose the right algorithm, rebalance it, using this piece of software. It's $99. It's pretty straightforward to use. There's not too many controls for it, although they do have a deeper spectral editor program. But with this, then, when you export it, one thing you can do is export it as a WAV file, which will have, you know, the different parts that you want in it. So if I come up here and go to export, you can see I can choose drums, music, vocals, whatever I want. Can do the whole track or just a selection. Another thing which is cool is we can export it actually to NI stem format. So if you're familiar with that, what that is it's vocals. Well, it's any 4 stems, but what this will do now is vocals, music, drums, and I heard soon that bass will be an option. But you can bring it right into Tractor from there, and if I load this up, we'll just do a quick example of this. You know, the idea is you can bring it right into Tractor, and if you like to do mashups or kind of types of remixing when you're DJing in Tractor.
Don't make me choose.
So what I'm going to do is lower the vocals and make it a acapella right in Tractor. And then vice versa. So it's pretty cool, you know, if you're a Native Instruments DJ, you can bring these things right into Tractor and again do mashups, any type of DJ remixing with that. Another thing is when you do bring it into a musical context, this is a little bit more my specialty, or at least what I want to talk about today, bringing it into live and what we do. So if I go ahead and open up the version here around the vocal processing, I think that might be interesting for some of the producers in the room. So you might have heard a couple things like artifacts or other issues when you first do the extraction. And I think what I'd like to talk about is, I know we're not in an ideal listening environment, but we have some great monitors here. We can try and listen to some of the things that I do when I first bring it in. So kind of a bird's eye view. You know, let's think about the overall vibe. I'll talk a little bit about vocal processing, the melodic instruments, and then the percussion that I use. So in this case, the first thing is some general cleanup. Then we get some basic effects. And let me talk through these a little bit now. So you can hear here. This Havana again. That's playing. So the first thing that I like to do is clean up any gaps in between where there's just kind of noise or random artifacts. So you hear that, hey, I wanted to get that out. So what I did is so I'm going to clean up in between the main parts of the vocal, apply some fades to get it smoothed out. Next I apply some EQ. Okay, you know, I just use Live's default EQ8 for that, probably roll off some of the low end and then do a couple things on the higher end. Next is some compression. I think I use C4 from Waves for this. It's sounding pretty good. You know, you can still hear a couple things, but once I bring it into an arrangement with everything around it, it's not too bad, especially because I'm going to be putting a snare on the 2 and the 4 most of the time, so I don't mind if there's a little transient artifact left behind. A big thing now is an exciter, and this will bring back some of the high harmonics and other parts at the top end of the vocal, which might have been lost a little bit during the extraction. So let's do A-B without the exciter. Starts to bring it in a little bit. So after that, in my effects chain, I add some reverb. Nothing crazy, but a little bit of reverb. Now, one thing is cool is I now doubled it up And on the backing track, I added chorus, which I did some automation on. And on another backing track for the third hook in the song, I actually pitched it up 7 semitones, so it was doing a fifth harmony above it, which I also automate what that is. And let's take a listen to those two techniques because I think that's a pretty cool way of doing it. So just doubled up with chorus, kind of fatten it up a little bit. And now with the harmony, I think that sounds pretty cool. Again, that was just for the third time, the hook around. You know, one last thing that I did too is during the verses, there's this backing kind of call and response that Camilla is doing. And what I did here was I kind of accentuated even more. I took the response, if you will, chopped it into a different track, panned it out really wide and added a doubler and some other effects on it to kind of, again, just accentuate it even more. So let's take a listen to without the heavy duty pan and then with the heavy duty pan. And now with. So, you know, just these little things, because I've heard some feedback on my YouTube channel and other spots that, you know, when you bring it in, oh, this doesn't sound amazing, what am I supposed to do with this? Well, number one, this is supposed to be fun. Number two, you can bring it into your DAW and start to do these creative things where you're adding harmony, you know, you're adding exciter and different things to really fill out the vocal. But, you know, then the point of this is we're going to build a song around it. So I used it for, inspiration to build out a song. And what I kind of did with Havana is even more of a cover. So I just played on some timbales, some güiro, and some congas and whatnot, which I'll show now. But on the Nord, I'm just playing the piano part. And I take a little solo and stuff. So I thought that could be cool to show here. But yeah, it's less of a remix and honestly more of just a cover song, which I had a lot of fun doing. So while we wait for this to load up, does anybody have any songs that they've been dying to remix or that maybe cover or they want to do a duet with somebody that's since passed on? Anything cool? It's all right, you guys can share it.
I got plenty.
You
It's
got
not
plenty.
about me.
That's right. It's not about me either. Cool, so why don't I switch over to timbales? Yeah, and you know, again, once I brought this in, I had some cool ideas for what to do. So let's just show in the last few minutes here, you know. Yeah, again, I played the piano Nord. I just put a simple square wave underneath it, some synth strings from the Prophet, and then I put in a synth trumpet section. But as a drummer, mostly, I guess you'd say, the part I was more excited about. So I brought in these different things to kind of build a percussive bed underneath it with a lot of traditional Afro-Caribbean instruments, and then the drums, of course, which give it that kind of EDM house vibe, if you will. So I thought it'd be cool to just kind of play through these things as we build up the track together, and then I'll go ahead and play it. So here's the percussion. So the first thing was the bell. Pretty straightforward. Now add some conga. And that's with these wave drums. Some of the other ones I added as MIDI. So then, yeah, I think the triangle, cabasa, and güiro I added as MIDI. It's a little triangle vibe. Sorry if the lights are spazzing out while I do this. And, you know, this is just kind of my vibe for what I wanted to do with the song. Again, mostly a cover. Now you got the güiro, get that. Cool, so, you know, on the drum side of things, it's a little bit different, but, you know, I brought in a kick. It's pretty big. And add a snare. Some claps. And this is just kind of, you know, building out kind of 4 on the floor type stuff. Which we'll show in a minute, but then some more glitchy type stuff. I think it's cool once you add in the percussion. chimes. Got a cool little bass going here, and then, you know, whatever you like, you know, I typically go to percussion because that's my strong suit, but if any of you folks play an instrument, you can do a cover song, you can extract the vocal, and then add whatever you like to do. So my kind of comfort zone is percussion stuff, so that's what I'm doing, but really anything that you do, whether it's guitar, piano, singing yourself, kazoo, you could add it and do something original with, you know, not being an insider in the industry. You don't have access to these stems otherwise, and that's what I really think is cool about this type of software, kind of democratizing the music making process. I do something with the clave that any purist would not be happy with me. I like pitch it around and stuff. But I think it sounds pretty cool in the track. But I have actually on Wolves, I do a 2/3 song clave, which I don't mess with. So for the purist, that's the track to listen to for the clave. But yeah, any questions so far? Any ideas or comments? Yeah.
If it's not too much trouble, could you like show some of the settings you have on the like EQs and the compressors and exciters to get that sound right? I know you just
This one just has the bounces on it.
okay.
Because I don't have my library hard drive with it, so I don't have all the settings. But if you come up afterwards, I can talk through some of what I did on it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, in the back.
Sorry, I came in a little late. Did you see those drums do wave and MIDI?
These things actually don't do MIDI.
They don't.
They don't. They have 3 sound sources in them. I'm not super detailed on how it works, but I know there's a standard like trigger on it. There's a microphone in it that will actually pick up things and then translate it, and then there's one more chip in there. So it does, because there's so many different avenues for playing it with the rims here, you know, Korg, and I think it's a Yamaha chip in here. Korg made the decision not to support MIDI out with them. So they can be somewhat challenging to play, but it's stereo audio coming out.
So in the DAW, you do a conversion from audio to MIDI?
No, I do. When I'm working with these are pure audio. So, you know, I was looking at some other options earlier in the year when I went to when I was in the market for these. One thing that was important to me was that I could play them with sticks and my hands. So there's some other options out there that you can only play with hands. There's the other types of drum pads that are in like a configuration like this, but coming from kit and then having to play like this, it doesn't vibe with me. So I just love the idea of having 2 of these. It's like I've got congas here and I can just kind of play them like normal, you know, and you can just wail on them and kind of go for it. So yeah, these are Korg wave drums. They're pretty cool. Any other comments or questions before? I think I'll jump into another performance here before we run out of time. Yeah, right there.
So with the audio extraction, you're showing examples of pulling sung vocals out of a regular track. Have you tried to do something like maybe pull spoken vocals out of something like cinematic, like a clip of a movie? Or?
Yeah, I actually did something with one of the MCU movies where it was Thor's dad and Thor talking, and then I pulled that out.
Yeah, now you know what I want to do.
Yeah, there you go. And for that, I actually used Audionamics has a program called XTRAX Pro, which has a full spectrogram in it, and with that, you can be a lot more fine, kind of really more detailed and surgical with how you do it. So there is a speech mode with XTRAX, but if you want to get a really clean separation, depending on what the end goal is, you'd want to use XTRAX Pro. But it can be perfect. It's just how much time you want to put into, you know, going back and forth, doing mid-side processing, other types of things that you can do to clean up something from cinema. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
But, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, why don't we jump into a song, and then I can take a couple more questions at the end here. Cool. All right, well, that was a journey. So yeah, I don't know. These are a couple that I've done so far. If you want to hear more, and I promise to keep it below a certain level for your listening pleasure at home, you can go to venomisto.com, check out some more of my stuff. And if you're interested in XTRAX and what Audionamics does, you can go throw your name in a hat. And what we're doing is giving $20 off, so it'll be $79 for the program. You can play with it and do some source separation.
I got the thing in the back, Tom, so they can come back
All right,
to
cool.
the
Steve's
back to
got
the
it right in
piano.
back. So,
I'll meet
hey,
you back
thanks
there.
again for everybody coming. I apologize about the blasting noise. And if anybody has any questions or comments in the last few minutes, let me have it. Otherwise, let's all get over to the giveaway and try and win some prizes, huh?
Yeah.